So Sony just released the a7V, which is awesome. Looks like a really good camera. This video is not going to be saying whether or not this is a good camera or not. It really is going to be more so just my interpretation of this camera release in comparison to the a7 IV, which is what I'm shooting on right now. And as someone who bought the a7 IV on pre-order when it was first released in 2021, I have a good perspective on this new release and ultimately why I do think it is a good camera for people who are looking to upgrade, but why I'm personally not going to upgrade from the a7 IV to the a7V, at least for right now. Let's first talk about the things that are very similar. It's got a 33 full frame megapixel sensor. This is good. I think 33 is a nice sweet spot. I personally have loved it on the a7 IV. It's obviously going to be a very hybrid creator sort of camera. I actually think that the a7 V looks like it's kind of really one of the more perfect all-rounded hybrid cameras for creators. I mean, it already had good photo quality, it already had good video quality, but now those things have just been improved on quite a bit. Just like a lot of things that you've known and loved from the a7 IV are going to be found in the a7 V, but the a7 V has differentiated itself in some pretty interesting ways, and I think there's some ways that people have kind of, for a long time, honestly kind of wanted for the release of the a7 IV, but they're now in the a7 V. So first thing is the new and improved screen design. The a7 V has introduced the origami sort of like flippable, I think it's like 5-way access like screen, which is really cool and just awesome for getting any sort of viewable angle of the screen possible when you're shooting with this camera. I didn't think that there was necessarily anything wrong with the a7 IV's flip out screen. It's traditional, but having that new, improved screen is really cool. One other thing that's great is that there is better heat management for the a7 V in comparison to the a7 IV. One thing, like right out of the box when the a7 IV was delivered, was noticing that high temp warning comes on real quick unless you have to unless you go in and add in the higher threshold for heat dissipation. Even then, there were definitely times where it would still overheat, so much so that I've had to make videos about how to handle overheating in cameras like the a7 IV. So improved thermal for the a7 V is definitely a welcomed upgrade. We also have improved image stabilization, which is great. I thought the image stabilization on the a7 IV was fine. It was serviceable, maybe not the greatest, but certainly good enough in a lot of situations. So if that's getting improved, that's always going to be better. On the a7 V, we also have improved rolling shutter, improved image processing, autofocus, better dynamic range apparently. I think Sony was claiming somewhere around the range of 16 stops of dynamic range, which is awesome. I think the a7 IV is one of the more underrated video cameras just in general for video, but now it's getting more of an upgrade, more dynamic range, which is certainly welcome. The big thing with video that I think is one of the most noticeable upgrades for the a7 V is that 4K 60 frames per second now has no crop to your image, which is awesome. This is something that I think they probably could have released with the a7 IV, but they didn't. It had the 1.5 times crop. It's something that is a deal breaker for some people. I found it manageable for my workflow and how I do things. So again, it's a great welcomed addition to this camera, and I think it's awesome. Also to mention, there is a 4K 120 mode now on the a7 V. That does have the 1.5 times crop that many a7 IV users are accustomed to for having that 4K 60. No longer on the 4K 60, but if you want to do 4K 120, it's got the crop. There is also an improved performance in the burst mode and how many photos you can take in burst mode. It went from 10 frames per second on the a7 IV, which was, it's slow. It was even significantly slower than the a7 III, which is kind of crazy to say. but now you can do up to 30 frames per second with the electronic shutter. When it comes to price, the a7V is just at $3,000, just under $3,000, which I think in the general landscape of camera stuff, I think is probably right about where people were expecting this to land. This is a bit more expensive than the release of the a7 IV, which 4 years ago, that was like $2,500, $2,600, but somewhere around that range. Now you can get the a7 IV for even cheaper. If you get, like, I saw holiday pricing around $2,000 brand new, and of course it's been out in the wild for 4 years now, so there's definitely some used models out there too, so pricing difference is definitely there. So nothing I've said right now will lead me to tell you like, hey, this is not a good camera, don't upgrade. No, certainly it's a great camera, and I think that if you've been saving your money, you've been waiting for the a7V patiently, you wanted a better version of the a7 IV, or if you had frustrations with the a7 IV, I think all those frustrations are going to be solved with the a7V. But for me personally, I am not going to be upgrading my a7 IV to the a7V, at least not right now. And that's mostly because I've already got all of my photo needs met with this camera. I don't necessarily need the high burst rates. It'd be cool to have more autofocus, functions and capability, and I'm sure it would be better, but Sony's autofocus on the a7 IV is already incredible, so I don't feel like I'm personally lacking in that department. The one biggest thing is like thermal. Yes, I would love if my camera didn't overheat, but I've got a couple of little hacks that I've made videos on to try to dissipate the heating, and that works for me. I also wish that the a7 IV didn't crop in 4K 60, but it does, and my solution to those issues, at least in this whole meantime, was that I got myself a Sony a7V, which does all of the video stuff that the a7 IV was not capable of. So if I wanted 4K 60, I would either deal with the crop on the a7 IV, or I would just switch to my a7V. I've always got both cameras on me, and it's easy enough to do that. Plus, I like having a 2-camera setup for a lot of the content creation stuff that I do. Also, too, when it comes to the pricing at $3,000, again, I think that's probably reasonable for the current landscape of camera stuff. But you can get a brand new a7 IV, at least through holidays and different deals and stuff. I've seen them as low as $2,000 brand new. And so I think for $1,000 less than the a7V, you're getting an extremely capable, extremely reliable, like a really solid camera. And if I was to recommend a camera to anybody who wants to get into full frame, who wants to have like 4K video, 10-bit, and it has to be full frame, it's like get an a7 IV or get a a7C Mark II, and then use $1,000 to get yourself a really nice lens, or at least get you to the point of almost being able to pay for a really nice lens. And I think that that's really the biggest thing, is just knowing what your needs are and whether or not a camera that's going to solve that for you. One thing that I always recommend to people before they go to upgrade camera equipment, whether it's a new lens, whether it's a new camera body or anything like that, is just know what problem that this purchase is going to solve for you in your content creation. So if it's like, I need 10-bit color to color grade my footage so it doesn't look banded and stuff because I'm using 8-bit. Okay, cool, that makes sense. I'm doing sports photography. I need 30 frames per second so I can get the motion captured instead of 10 frames per second in photos. Okay, go for it. Like there's obviously, like, you can do anything you want. It's just a camera. Like, people get really emotional about this stuff for some reason, as I've found over the years in the comment section. But yeah, I always like to ask that question, because if it doesn't necessarily solve a problem or like meet a need for you, then you just might be better suited saving your money for now. So one other thing that I almost forgot to mention too is that the a7 IV just got another firmware update. So this camera, even though it's 4 years old, it is getting more rollouts to make it more usable for people who are looking for some quality of life increases. So I like that they're upgrading the older camera, especially just before they release the new one, so that way it still has a place. It's not completely obsolete. Like, it's still got its purpose, and I like that. And I like that me still using the A7 IV and not choosing to upgrade to the A7 V. It helps me to just kind of feel better about my decision to do so. So those are my thoughts about this whole release. This obviously is not a very extensive or well edited or highly detailed list about all that stuff. If you want to find out all the tech, like the specs, all the different fun things, go find another channel. And I'm sure there's somebody else who is taking more extensive time. I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts and my perspective as somebody who has owned the A7 IV for literally since the day it was released. And yeah, just why I'm not personally going to be upgrading to the A7 V, at least for right now. Sun flare is killing me. If you're somebody who still owns an A7 IV and you want to get some more validation on why it's still a good camera for you to be using, you can check out this video. And if you're trying to figure out how to fix overheating with your camera, you can click on this video down here. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about this camera in the comments down below. Let me know if you're upgrading. Let me know if you are not, your reasoning why, some of the favorite features of the A7 V, and just let me know in the comments down below. Until the next time, my name is Zach Sopak, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.